All right. Well, thank you for sticking around to what I think is the second last panel of the day, so thanks for that. For those of you I haven't met, I'm Kotsopoulos, General Manager of the Trade Desk Canada. I'm thrilled to be moderating this panel with Tracy from Bear, Sue from Numeris and Enlogic, and Matt from PhD representing OMG. I know you've heard, I think it's important to set the context. I know you've been here all day. Some of you have been part of other panels yesterday. So we're going to try not to be repetitive with some of the commentary, but we do want to lay some of the foundation. We've talked a lot about the diversification of media, the fragmentation, the impact on local news. We've talked about layoffs. We've talked about what solutions need to be in place. And we've talked about an imbalance between watch time and investment in very simple terms. And these aren't guesses or anecdotes. We know from stats, I know you've seen a lot of stats today, that approximately 80% of online dollars go towards walled gardens, yet only 19% of time spent is experienced by Canadians. So we know that there's an imbalance there. And that's why we're all here today, because it's roughly 700 people in the room, which is great. And finding solutions to this is not easy. We also have a mantra amongst us as a panel on progress over perfection. I've been to a number of these events. I know you have. There's been a lot of discussion, a lot of great discussion, but I think we would generally agree there's been a lot more discussion than there has been action. So we've been very purpose-driven on creating an initiative that we'll talk about in a sec that is very deliberate, that is intentional, that is biased on action, that it's iterative. We don't expect this to be a silver bullet and it's step one is perfect. The notion is progress over perfection, so that's kind of how we built all this. And we've also seen from the market a very enthusiastic reaction telling us that this is not only needed, we're on the right track, and several have said it's about bloody time. So here we are to talk about what we've launched. And just to start to set the stage, I'll ask all the panel, what from your perspective are the biggest structural challenges in ensuring we have a healthy ecosystem and balancing better time spent versus investment? And maybe Tracy, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I can start by saying how long did we say it was going to be the year of mobile? And it wasn't the year of mobile. You know, when mobile first came, we saw people flocking to these devices, but investment didn't go there. And I think there was a reason. You know, brands and advertisers want to invest in stable properties and not necessarily be distracted by trends or new products. That all to say that I think probably this year and into next year will be monumental shifts into where people actually are from an investment standpoint. I just think it took us a little while to get here.
Great, and we'll get into why in a bit. Matt, same question.
I guess there are all kinds of individual challenges in terms of planning and execution and measurement. But actually what is really interesting is it creates new opportunities for us as an agency. I think we've got the ability, based on our scale, to connect data together in a way that means that we can get a pretty cohesive planning picture. And we've got people who've grown up in the digital space and the broadcast space who can mesh ideas together. And so from my point of view, it's creating all kinds of opportunities. Clients are asking us to better understand how to make this transition out of linear into connected TV. And that gives us an opportunity to kind of peel back the layers and really understand what it is they're trying to accomplish. We're feeling this, there's this movement between, yeah, on the one hand, we want constant drive to store, or we want to be consistently driving our business, but on the other hand, we really want to understand the longer term effects. I think that there's lots of room for the industry to increase our focus on quality, increase our focus on reach and context, and this feels like a really good step in the right direction.
Great.
My turn?
Your turn, Sue.
Yeah, from the measurement side, I would say the structural challenge, as we all know, is it's fundamentally two different languages trying to speak together. So on the linear side, of course, the trading is in AMA and Ranker and GRP, and on the streaming digital, all the way from premium streaming, down to socials, impressions, and CPMs, and you're trying to work across the whole ecosystem, and you mash it together into a ball, and like you're trying to roll the ball and it doesn't roll, and where should you spend your ad dollars? And we all know this problem. Of course, a little layer under that is we know tons of Canadian companies are spending money on linear TV, and they're also spending money on streaming, and they want to reach new people on streaming. And what is the incremental reach? And they can't see it. Just quick plug for Logic does have a planning tool in market using VAM data that is like opening a window into that, and I'm really excited to work with the trade desk. And Environics isn't on stage, but they're our partner in this as well, and shout out to them, they've been great. And I hope you're excited by this change, this progress we're going to share with you today.
Amazing. And it sounds like we all have a pretty good grasp on what we're trying to solve. We've taken steps maybe, but there's clearly gaps, and hopefully today is a step in that. Just unpacking what you said about as linear dollars transition over, and just going back to the comment about time spent, in a very blunt way, when a dollar moves from linear TV to digital, if the time spent and investment hold, that means the TV is losing 80 cents on the dollar for all the reasons we talked about and why the gaps are. And so if we just unpack maybe Numeris a little bit, it's been, it continues to be and has been for decades, a TV source of truth that underpins the TV currency. But we hear of other measurement solutions, other entries into the market, trying to find a better way forward. So how do you think about that in terms of how you're moving your organization forward? And how does that play a role, your company, your tech, your movement into the future in programmatic and digital?
Sure. I don't know if some of you know this, but Numeris turns 80 this year, so has been, happy birthday, happy anniversary, has been well established. And sometimes when a company's been around for that long, it will get a reputation of being hard to change or slow to move. And again, I think today we're going to talk about how the company is innovative, and we are working to answer our clients' problems in market. And a problem that clients say to us is, of course, we buy advertising on linear, but we buy on streaming. And Numeris, can you help us? We buy programmatically with the trade desk. How can we how can we combine? And we're providing segments through Environics to the trade desk now to help you see a little bit across that ecosystem. And again, I would say our real value, we have our currency in market that's been established for decades, but our real value as Numeris is our people-based panel. It's data-based on real people. It's representative of the Canadian population. It can measure any screen type. It can show demographic. It shows co-viewing, and that is our real asset. And we hear time and time again, there is still a real value for that third-party transparent measurement in Canada. So is there still a role for our type of measurement business in Canada as we move into streaming? I would say yes, absolutely.
But you've also been very open and clear that the business to evolve properly and well requires partnerships.
Yes. Thank you for saying that. We have data, we have very strong data, but not all the data. And working closely with Environics and RPD data and ACR, we're going to talk about that a bit, just enhances the value, creates scale, creates granularity, and creates more utility and efficiency.
Agreed. So I think that's really good context setting and setting the table for what we're talking about. So what is this initiative, this step that we're talking about?
What are we actually talking about?
What are we actually talking about?
Okay, so we announced this a few weeks ago. It's very brand new. And what we're doing is we're taking Numeris TV data, again, working with Environics to scale and model that data, and we're delivering it to the trade desk for programmatic targeting. So we're going to have 4 segments. There's going to be light, medium, well, there already is. We're in market. Tracy's actually spending real marketing dollars on this as we speak. Low, medium, and high TV segments. So it's very basic concept. Do you watch linear TV? Yes or no? And if you do watch linear TV, do you watch a small amount, medium, large? And we do have a control non. So why is this important? For all the things I had just said, if you're spending in linear and you want to have incremental reach at new people in streaming, you use the light TV audience segment. If you want to run a high frequency campaign on linear and on the trade desk, you'd use our high audience segments. And that is our first stage. We are very iterative, and this is what we were calling the crawl stage. And as we get into walk and run, in addition to do you watch TV, yes or no, do you watch a small amount, do you watch a heavy amount, we're also planning to introduce our commercial tracking spots data that is currently available in the linear space from Logic, and that's going to be incorporated in. So not only did you are you targeting an audience that watches linear, but they also saw the Bayer ad on linear, which obviously is much more impactful. That we're not there yet. We're working on that solution, but that's our next step, and definitely everyone I've spoken to, clients directly, that's what they're waiting for. But they're still willing to jump in on this beta and test in this first stage.
And speaking to clients directly, Tracy, you've been building brands. Linear TV has given you a great platform for incredible reach, premium environments. I'm going to ask you why you jumped into this beta and this project in a sec, but just first, how do you think about the interplay between your digital strategies and your linear strategies for brand building?
Yeah, it's unfortunate we are stuck at channel architecture the way that it is today because it's not integrated. We don't have a solution. We're working on the solution that allows us to play in one environment, sort of to see everything at one shot. So the way that we think about linear is it is one to many. And that is the strongest branding channel we have. So for Bayer brands, we're an OTC and pharmaceutical company. So, being in as many households and that far reach is very important to us. And so we look at linear as our big brand building channel. And then as we move into digital, there's still big brand building channels in digital, but they become much more concise because now, even though we're targeting broadly, it's still one-to-one. And so the message there can be amplified, it can be competitive. And so that's how we try to put the two together. One being that everybody needs to know that Claritin will definitely help them with their allergies, just a little plug. But when we get to that one-to-one, we want to get deeper into the reasons to believe in the brand.
And as a consumer, I attest it does help with the allergies.
I just wanted to say too, I hear this, one of the reasons, of course, that it's been so challenging to combine traditional linear with digital is one-to-one and linear is directional. So we are trying to fit these two things together, and I'm really just proud of the work we've been able to do. In like 8 months, we started this project. We're live in market with our beta partners. So if you think it's not possible, it is, and it's a work in progress.
And just sticking with you, Tracy, for a sec, why did you jump into this project? Like, what did this initiative prompt in terms of reaction? What do you think it's going to do for your business, at least short term, and then as you think longer range?
Yeah, I think we're a small brand. We're a big company. We're a strong brand, but we're small with our advertising dollars. And so every impression, every dollar counts. And when this opportunity came up, it was a no-brainer to try and test. It isn't the sole strategy, but it's a very strong part of the strategy that gets us to our ultimate goal, which is household penetration. And that's what's most important to us as a brand. And so the partnership allowed us to get to that light viewer, not a not viewer, heavy viewer. We can make better decisions about where we want our money to go utilizing this. It's not perfect, it's progress, and I like being a part of progress.
Yeah, and I would also, you've always kind of been on the innovation side of how you action, how you spend your money, how you focus your people. So I think this is just a testament to how you move forward.
Yeah, we've got a great team at Bayer. Just the kudos to the activation team. I am not the brains behind that part of the operation. Like, we have magical folks on keyboards who are pushing for that innovation with partners like yourself.
Yeah.
And I was just going to say too, if I can, on the product measurement side, which we don't always get to do, which is why it's so important to have great, willing clients, is to hear direct from the client. Oftentimes, sadly, we don't hear direct from the client, but to hear from Tracy, hey, can you tweak this? Can you work on this? Like, this is what results would look like. And I take that back to my product research team, and Veronix takes that back to their team, and we're meeting several times a week, and it's very iterative and collaborative. And that's an exciting, fun way to work and to solve like real problems.
Yeah, and our agency partners, and I'll turn to you, Matt, we did the same thing. We reached out to a select few and said, here's what we're thinking about. Here's what we're thinking of launching. What are we missing? What do we think you're going to get right? What matters most to you? And I think as we're prepped for this, as we're going live with your campaigns, we continue to iterate. So I think the collaboration has been some of the best I've seen. And Matt, so for you at PhD or more broadly OMG, ways of working have been challenged, probably more so than ever before. How do you start to think differently about the future of how the agency operates in terms of buying, and where might this fit into that equation?
I mean, we're constantly evolving the way that we execute. I think that there are some really interesting reasons why this development is pretty special. When you look at when you puzzle together the different data sources to try and understand how people are consuming media, it used to be that the assumption was people watch TV or digital video. Like that's kind of, it's funny, like it's rooted in how we thought about this, and 8 years ago it was probably true. Today what we're seeing is there are people who consume a lot of media, and there are people who don't consume a whole lot. And if we're not careful about how we execute, what you end up doing is not reaching new people by spending in connected TV and digital video. You're just reaching the same people with more frequency. And what we get out of this type of a solution is a lot more confidence about our ability to drive incremental reach. And it's really easy to underestimate how important that is to a plan. To achieve those extra points of reach by buying more linear or by buying the wrong CTV can be massively expensive. So from our point of view, integrating this type of development is pretty straightforward, I think. It's, you know, obviously there's lots of learning that needs to continue to happen in terms of how we measure it, but it's something that's pretty easy to embrace.
And just on that last point, measurement, we seem to know what the problem is. We seem to have taken a step forward that has been embraced, and this is the right step forward. And for both Tracy and Matt, I'll start with you, Tracy. How are you measuring success? What does success look like?
Yeah, for us, it's penetration, it's household penetration. So we know the one to mass in linear, so we're utilizing connected to help us amplify that penetration. So for us, right now, could be a moving target, but for us right now, it's incremental cost per household. And that's how we're measuring this. And we've seen great results already, dropping like north of 20% from where we started to where we're phasing now.
And I think not all clients are comfortable with that type of measurement. There's a lot of desire for instant results. So there are ways of measuring that, but I think more and more clients like Tracy are realizing that it's important to maximize your reach. It's important to invest now for the future. So this is a great solution for that. And I think there's a sort of more abstract way to measure this as well. I think your organizations are really to be commended in terms of the way that you're coming together. It hasn't been always a comfortable route for Numeris to innovate, and I think Trade Desk gets a kind of first mover advantage in how you're approaching and coming together. The notion of compete on content and collaborate on everything else. I don't know how many people are going to jump at that. If you own a lot of data, you may not get excited about collaborating on everything else, but I think that the industry is really going to benefit when there is an increasing understanding of how we execute. It would be, I think it's in everybody's interest who wants to see brands grow and wants advertising to thrive, to find common ways of doing business, because we will find value faster, more effectively, and our culture will benefit from it as well.
I just want to double down on that. Yep. I want to say thank you to both of you guys for also moving as quickly as you have.
Yep.
In our industry, we tend to wait for that thing to be perfect and good to go and baked, and we're not doing that. We're being scrappy, and I love that we're being scrappy with an 80-year-old company. Like, we're not a startup, we're acting like one because we're moving towards a better future for television.
We're like, future of TV is coming up. They're going to ask the last 12 months, what have you done? We had to work really fast to get this ready.
Bravo.
For today.
Yeah, that was literally the conversation. Genuinely. So we're going to wrap up soon. Why don't I start with you, Matt, on final thoughts on paint for us a picture of future state on the notion of bridging the gap, bridging between linear TV and CTV. What does a future state look like that will ultimately be best for your business and brands?
I think that there's a lot of fascination around data sources like ACR or impressions and all that. And there's lots of value in that kind of data, but it also obstructs the real opportunity to understand your consumer and what it takes to help them grow. We need panel data managed by tripartite organizations that have the right incentives in place to increasingly take ownership in making sense of a lot of that ACR streaming type data, so that it is easier for marketers and their agencies to really understand who they need to reach and reach them. I think this is a really interesting step in the right direction, and I get the feeling that, thank you to the Future of TV people, that there are conversations that are heading in that direction, and I don't think we can do much more than to compel everybody to open and try and do more of it. I think it's a really great development that we'll all benefit from.
Agreed. Tracy, same question.
I think if we keep the consumer in our sights and we do what's best for them, because we're advertisers, we're selling products to people who we want to love them and need them. And I think if we stop focusing on the wrong things, like this measurement versus that measurement, and we get a look at the entire ecosystem, then linear benefits and CTV benefits and consumers benefit. They don't have to see the same ad 40 times, because whether it's linear or CTV, they're seeing it on all of those platforms. It's not universally one or the other anymore.
Yeah, and the future is closer than we think.
I think so.
I think so too. Sue, similar question in terms of roadmap for Numeris and Logic in the future and where you're investing into the future.
Sure. Projects like this, innovation projects, we want to move quickly to answer business problems for all of our members in the industry in general. Video audience measurement, for sure, VAM. And if you have ideas, you have data, you want to come work with us on a project, we would love to speak to you about opportunities and help move the industry forward in a faster way.
Thank you. Shameless plug, we are in beta, so if anyone is interested in joining beta, give us a call. With that, I just wanted to say a couple of final closing thoughts. Thank you for the time, your money, your investment, your thought leadership on making this happen. I'm really glad we've built this in a way that it pushes us forward and doesn't try to make it perfect, and that it's iterative. I'm really proud of that. And thank you to the crowd for sticking with us to the end of the day. Thank you.